So I just got done watching a Candace episode, and she bashed evolution, and I do not think that evolution goes against the Bible. Uh, Now, do I think that evolution is a perfect theory? No, I do not. There are some issues with something like Archaeopteryx and the claims of it being the first bird and coming from dinosaurs. Uh, so this is what Archaeopteryx is, and Archaeopteryx is believed to be a descendant from a dinosaur, and this lineage learned how to fly. At least that is what the narrative is. Uh, I subscribe to the idea that uh, there probably were birds uh, alongside the dinosaurs, and their fossils were not made. Uh, Fossilization of birds is very rare, and so yeah, uh, this is the evidence from an ancient world that we have. In my opinion, Archaeopteryx could be uh, a bird lineage that no longer flew, right? And so that would make the evolution of flight a lot earlier uh, than what the official timeline says. In my opinion, flight came from fish, which are aerodynamic in nature, and we have a perfect example of flying fish. This is an actual flying fish. They actually exist, and from there we could get some type of insects, and from the this like potential like full of potential organism, you can also get something like a bird. And to me, that makes the most amount of sense. I mean, fish already have this anatomically available uh, variation within their DNA that they can produce feather like structures, proto feather structures, which can be easily altered naturally with a little bit of natural selection to create a actual feather structure. Let's say that a species gets up into the air, and this dries out their skin more so than its ancestors, right? And so, therefore, this natural selection dries out their skin and selects for keratinized structures. This makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. It is just theory, though. And, the species that can start flying like full time, they are no longer the previous species. New behaviors will come about, also altering the structure of their anatomy. Bird lungs are a very specialized structure, also found in some dinosaurs, but not like this. Dinosaurs and birds may have come from fish simultaneously, right? I say birds flying, proto birds, flying fish, almost birds. Anyway, uh, they share this structure within their lungs. They have a very specialized lung structure, and this is the micro tubes within their air sacs, and this is the fish gills of a fish. And you can see the similarities between the actual gas exchange structure. These two animals share the same gas exchange, uh, you know, anatomy. This is a human lung anatomy for reference, and you can see we have very loby structures. And in Genesis 1:20, it says, "And God said, let the water teem with living creatures." So God made fish first. "And let birds fly above the earth." Birds can mean, in this context, any flying creature. And so yeah, with the biblical account, uh, birds coming from fish, in my opinion, is biblically accurate, and I do see evidence of birds living among dinosaurs, not coming from dinosaurs, like the old saying, chickens came from a T-Rex. I don't actually think that's true. I think that birds may be the second most ancient type of animal to exist, right? So there's fish, or like single celled organisms, of course, like the microbial life. The Bible doesn't really distinct that uh, difference, but like fish. First off, plants, fish, being the first multicellular like organism was a fish swimming in the sea, and then birds, as they are already aerodynamically capable of flight, as shown with uh, the flying fish we have today. And there is this understanding that these birds might include insects. So, just little flying fish first, and then they get better at it, right? Evolution takes time. It's a trial and error process where error ends in the ending of your lineage. And so it's gruesome, right? Maybe our understanding of evolution is not completely correct, but as a overarching theory, I do think it has legs to stand on based on evidence. And I think this type of knowledge is a revelation from God. Uh, I am not in the camp where I despise knowledge. Uh, the Bible talks about knowledge in all capacities. God is the God of knowledge, right? And so I feel like Christians are scared of it because they have this false belief that knowledge is bad. God leaves evidence for how He created us. We can understand that methylation of a DNA strand can alter it and cause a mutation over time in a lineage. And, you know, the DNA is what creates the phenotype, the physical attributes. The genotype dictates the phenotype. And so, if we have DNA proof that DNA changes and it is varied, Gregor Mendel, uh, the the monk, the Christian monk that figured out genetics, right? Uh, and we have all of these naturalist people studying life and variation, armies of men dedicating their lives to the study of this process of evolution and not being able to quite tell what is what with their point of view at that time. And then we get people like Darwin, uh, Wallace, and Lamarck. Uh, and on, in my opinion, Darwin gets a lot of the credit, probably due to his royal placement within the English society. It probably has something to do with that. Whereas somebody like Wallace, for those of you that do not know, Wallace independently came up with the same theory of evolution that Darwin did, but he was in Malaysia. He was more of a common folk. I think he was a Christian. He came from a Christian family. And I think this sentiment against Christian ideology and how the world is, I think Darwin got more credit than what was due to him. Uh, he's buried in a London like landmark, and Wallace was buried at a church. Uh, just things like that. Uh, Darwin was an atheist, and it does not really say anything about atheism, so therefore I will assume that Wallace was Christian thinking. And so, the devil stills, right? The devil can't create. That creation comes from God. All things good come from God. And so, I think there's a little bit of uh, flubbage going on with who is credited with the theory of evolution. We sent Columbus from Spain to honor Spain, and we sent Darwin from England, from Britain, to honor England. And so I think there's a little bit of that going on. Posturing, uh, with something like that, the political use of an achievement like that is, it's not surprising to me that uh, something like that could occur, right? And so, we forget that the theory of evolution was made up over time through different uh, fields of study, archaeology, uh, genetics, biology, and we always talk about Darwin, right? And I think it triggers people within their spirit uh, to hear that Darwin gets the credit for evolution, right? Because he probably was spiritually not alive. Uh, that's a Christian saying. Uh, and so I think that triggers us in our spirit because call it intuition. We sense that something's off about the information. And so I think there is this practice of throwing the baby out with the bathwater on this situation, uh, where the information is good. It is just that Christians do not want to credit Darwin. And so I think that is the crux of the matter of Christians and evolution.